Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be making my husband's absolute favorite cake, carrot cake. And it just so happens to fall on Easter week, so that I thought this was the perfect thing we could bake together. The ingredients we will need for this: 1 cake mix, vegetable oil, eggs, carrots, walnuts, cinnamon, salt, baking soda, baking powder, sugar, flour, and raisins. So let's go ahead and get started. Our first step is rehydrating raisins. I think that one of the reasons people don't really enjoy raisins in their carrot cake or oatmeal raisin cookies is because they haven't been rehydrated. And they're kind of gross and hard and not good. So rehydrating these will bring, just a little bit more plumpness, juiciness into that carrot cake. So when you take a bite, it's not, oh, that's disgusting. It's, oh wait, it's not bad, because raisins are not gross. So what we're gonna do is, I'm using golden raisins. You can totally use whatever type of raisins you like. I'm taking about a cup of raisins and putting them in a mug. And I'm gonna take about a cup of boiling water and pour it right over. And I'm going to let those rehydrate while we mix together all of our other goodies. But I'm also going to add the walnuts in there. So I think another thing is walnuts can dry out, and I don't like that. I also like them to be a little bit softer and not a hard crunch in the cake, especially when you're putting in things like carrots, raisins. You want it all to be delicious. So I'm just gonna pour these right on top and let all of that soak for just a little bit. Next, I'm going to do all of my dry ingredients in this big bowl. So we'll take 2 cups of all-purpose flour and 1 super moist carrot cake box mix. And I know what you're thinking, why are you mixing a homemade carrot cake recipe with a box mix? There's just really something about this that adds a super delicious moistness and flavor to the cake that I just like. And so does my husband, so it's his birthday, that's all that matters, right? All right. Then we're going to take a teaspoon of each baking soda, baking powder, salt, and cinnamon. And I'm not adding any extra since that cake mix already has leavening agents in it. Now that all of that's together, I'm gonna close this lid. I'm going to give this dry mixture a quick little mix. Now I will move on to my wet ingredients. So to this bowl, I'm going to add 7 eggs, 2 cups of sugar, and 1 and 1/3 cup of oil. And I know what you're thinking, did she just measure that? Absolutely not. I did not measure that 1/3 cup, but it's okay. And then a splash of vanilla. Even though the recipe doesn't call for it, I think that vanilla can do no harm, unless you put in like a cup of vanilla. And I'm going to give this a quick mix. And at this point, I always realize that I should have used a larger bowl. But I'll never learn. That's something I will never learn, is to use a bigger bowl. Now that my wet mixture is somewhat mixed, I'm going to go ahead and pour it into my dry mixture. Realize what a mess I have made. Now I will give this a lovely mix. And I'm not using my KitchenAid for this one just because I want it to keep that nice fluffy mixture, and I don't want to overwork it. Awesome. So I'm not fully incorporated here. As you can see, there are some dry pockets in there. I'm going to clean up my mess really fast, and I'll be right back. Now that I've taken a second, cleaned up everything, it's time to add back in the raisins, walnuts, and carrots. So what I'll be doing is using a 10-ounce bag of carrots. I would say between 3 or 4 cups. I also really love a full carrot cake that has so many different goodies in it. And I just use the pre-shredded. I don't have time to sit at a grater and grate them. And then I'm going to strain out the raisin and walnut mixture in a fine mesh strainer, just so we don't lose any bits of those walnuts. The juice of this might not look very good, but I promise you guys, it tastes so good. And we're just gonna add these back in. These are nice. Nice and delicious. And I'm gonna give this another mix. Looks so good. And you know what I forgot to add to this? Water. Lastly, we are going to add 1.5 cups of water. I was wondering why it looked so thick. Duh, Madison. It's been a long day. I'm gonna give this a quick mix, get it to the consistency it's supposed to be, and then I'll show you what it looks like. If you just really, really hate raisins, don't add them. Add a few extra walnuts, add some extra carrots. This is looking great. You can see all of those goodie bits, and I know it does not look appetizing right now, but I promise this is the best carrot cake ever. I have my oven preheated to 350 degrees, and this is the part where you can find your prettiest pan for Easter or aluminum foil if you don't want to do dishes. We're just going to spray it with a little cooking spray. Make sure to get all of the corners in there, and then pour it on in. I'm gonna go throw this in the oven, but not literally because I don't want another mess. And I would say about 45, 55 minutes, just depending on your oven, but I'll check back with you. In the meantime, I'm going to wash my dishes and make cream cheese icing for the top of this. While the cake is in the oven, it's the perfect time to go ahead and make the cream cheese buttercream. What we're going to do is start off with a room temperature block of cream cheese and 2 sticks of room temperature butter, salted butter. I also brought out the KitchenAid for this one because it's just not, you know, just not worth it to do by hand. Also, do not add cream cheese to bowl in wrapper. Make sure to take it out. There goes that. 2 sticks or 1 cup of butter. And we'll do a splash of vanilla again. And we're going to cream this together with our paddle attachment for about 3 or 4 minutes until you see no lumps between the cream cheese and the butter. And make sure to start it off slow because sometimes the butter coats the bowl and then you turn it on fast and it flies right out. And you don't want to waste butter these days, or any day. Yum. I'm going to take 1 pause just to scrape the bowl to make sure nothing is stuck to the sides. And I'll whip this for about 1 more minute. Once we have whipped our butter and cream cheese together, it should have a light and fluffy, airy texture, just like this. And to this, we will add 1 bag of powdered sugar, roughly 7.5, 8 cups. I just add it all at once, because why not? We're going to turn this on the lowest setting, just to make sure no powdered sugar flies throughout the air. And while it's mixing, we'll see it thicken up just a little bit, and that's when we can add in a couple splashes of milk. You want it to be a creamy texture, but since it has that cream cheese and butter in it, you don't want it to be too thin or too thick. So right now it has the consistency of sugar cookie dough. I'll show you real fast. This is very thick cream cheese frosting consistency. I'm gonna add about 2 tablespoons to start. You can use whole milk, and if you use heavy whipping cream, that makes this, it just takes it to another level. And now I'm going to turn it on a higher speed just to whip it up some more. And I see that it's still pretty thick. It's kind of paste-like, so I'm going to add a little bit more milk. I'm going to let this mix for just a second, but I do want to scrape down those sides one more time. Oh my gosh, it's so good. It's thick, but it's also creamy at the same time, which is, you know, kind of how you want cream cheese icing. Rich. You want it to be just like, oh my gosh, so good. Now I'm going to turn this on between a 4 and a 6 on my mixer and let it go for a little bit. And that is fluffy cloud-like, and let's just give it a try. Perfect cream cheese frosting. Oh my gosh. So we're just gonna let this hang out while we wait for that cake to bake. And I hope I don't eat any more of it. So let's check on the cake. The cake is finally done and out of the oven. It looks and smells delicious. A little brown on the edges. I'm not worried about that at all, just because of the amount of moisture that went into the cake. I'm going to let it cool before I ice it, just so the icing doesn't melt everywhere and make a mess. So I'm gonna let this cool for about 30 to 40 minutes. I just want it to be cool to the touch because I'll pop it in the fridge tonight. So I'm gonna let this hang out for a little bit. To finish this cake off, I have let it cool pretty much completely to the touch. So over an hour, and what I'm going to do is just take my cream cheese icing, put it right on top of the cake. And since this is such a thick cake, it's totally fine to have thick icing on top. All right. And I have an offset spatula, but you could use that kind of spatula. You could use a spoon, a knife, honestly, whatever you have. And since this is in a baking dish with a lip, it's pretty easy to just kind of go to that corner and level it off. Once my icing is pretty much spread out all over my cake, I'm just going to take my spatula and make like a little pattern so it looks a little bit nicer. Or I guess looks worse, I'm not really sure. Whatever in your eyes, whatever you think. And there we have it. The best carrot cake you'll ever eat. I have to cut into this and show you guys what the inside looks like. Oh my goodness gracious. That is a thick, thick carrot cake. You can see the walnuts, you can see the raisins, you can see the carrot and the mound of cream cheese icing on this. And that is what I call a carrot cake I will eat. So there you have it, the best carrot cake you'll ever have. Thank you so much for watching. This was such an easy and fun recipe that I know everyone who's gonna have it will enjoy. See you next time.